Hello everybody, so here is Black Angel again, and I'm here with a new series of videos that I'm going to call The Strange Path. And I'm going to call it this way because I think it's the best way to call it. But anyway, I'm not going to give you a lot of motivations for this thing. It's just I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I see as parallels between modern sci-fi slash fantasy stuff and Greek mythology and what it has to do, what they have to do with each other, and so on. So this first video is going to be about something that I've been thinking about recently. So I've recently started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I waited a little bit because I didn't want to wait too long to see the story evolving and so on. And I'm currently starting to watch the fourth series of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anyway, I think I will start from another point that is not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm going to start from Greek mythology. So as I said, I'm going to compare a lot of things from the past, the ancient way to view this sci-fi stories and what we have in modern days. So there's a lot of stories out there that actually share parallels and have a lot in common with each other. And like, for example, like I said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. share a lot of things with and Marvel superheroes, as well as the X-Men and Harry Potter all share a lot of things in common with Greek mythology and other kinds of mythology that are to be found around the world, like, for example, Mayan mythology or Norn mythology also. And so one thing that I want to start with is this. So there were in Greek mythology, the gods, as you know, from the Olympus, used to come down and have sex with the humans and generate demigods, the so-called demigods. And this was viewed very negatively from the goddesses and from everybody in the Olympus, and it was considered a bad thing. And that was because these demigods, they didn't know where to locate them, if they had to be among the gods, if they didn't have to be among the gods, plus they didn't know what use they would make of their whatever it is that they had that made them demigods. So, like, for example, super strength in Hercules or other things. So it was a very controversial matter, this thing of creating this newborns, new entities. And in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we happen to have something very similar. We have the Kree that come to Earth and mix their genetics with the human genetics, and then they create the Inhumans. And then at some point they decide that the Inhumans were a bad idea, so they decide to exterminate the Inhumans. Just a little bit like Greek gods at some point decided that the Titans were not good for governing the earth and for ruling over everybody. For example, there was Cronus that used to eat his kids, and the kids were not so happy. And it was the gods, so they rioted, they rebelled, and they decided to exterminate, to destroy the Titans, and they defeated the Titans, and they took over the Olympus, and so on. So anyway, there's all these things that happen, and it happened for a reason. And the best way to look at it is, in my opinion, through the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the idea of the Kree creating the Inhumans, because the Kree wanted to create the Inhumans so that the Inhumans that were basically demigods, demi-aliens, as they were, would fight for them. They would have to be the goddesses. I'm getting lost in words. They had to be the Kree's army, and they had to fight for the Krees. But at some point they realized that all the experiments they had made everywhere else hadn't worked well, so they decided to abandon the experiment on Earth too. And they actually banned their first created inhuman onto another planet because he had gone rotten in some way. He wanted to conquer the Earth, and he started possessing all the people on the Earth, and he wanted to be the superhero, and he wanted to be superpower, and he wanted to be God himself, and therefore the Kree decided, the people of the Earth and the Kree decided to take this guy and throw him on another planet, the planet Maveth. And so yeah, kind of like the Titans were destroyed. And this gives us food for thought. This gives us food for thought, and there's a lot of stories in both things, in actually in every kind of mythology slash fantasy slash sci-fi thing that we encounter that have a lot in common. And I would like to share with you one story in particular that I love and that I like a lot, and it's Echo's story, the nymph Echo. Echo was a nymph, and she was a nymph of the woods and of the mountains. Actually, she was a nymph of the mountains, and she used to have this super wonderful voice, and accidentally she used to help Zeus when he came down to make it with the nymphs, and she would go to Hera and start chatting with Hera and make her waste time with her chatting because she had this wonderful voice that enchanted everyone. And so Hera at some point decided that she was tired of all this chatting because she wanted to catch Zeus in the attempt of whatever he was doing, and so she cursed Echo with taking away her voice. So she decided that she couldn't speak anymore, and that she couldn't communicate with others anymore. So she only could repeat the last syllables of anyone's sentences. So that's what she did for a long time. She started wandering in the woods and in the mountains and going around and trying to communicate with people by repeating the last words of their sentences. And it was a little bit weird if you think about it, because she would go around and these people would go like, "Oh, how are you, Echo?" And she would like, "Go, go." And it's not very nice conversation to keep. Anyway, she got cursed, and then at some point she stumbles into Narcissus, and she falls in love with Narcissus, who, since he was in love with himself, rejected her, and so she started wondering. She started weeping and crying, and she got all sad, and she sort of ran in the caves and in the caverns, and that's where she died, melting in tears, and that's where she. And that's where basically where Echo is only found nowadays. So this is a very nice story, and as you can see, there's a very big parallel also with the story of Hive in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Same thing. He was this strange being that wanted to share with, wanted to possess everyone, and that had this superpower that he could possess every other inhuman. And he wanted to conquer the Earth, and he was cast away and sent on planet Maveth. So he gets out of the way and stops doing that shit. Anyway, yeah, that's parallel there. And there's something that I found very interesting in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in particular, and that's that the Kree are called the Blue Angels, and Inhumans themselves are considered angels, so they are called angels. And I consider that very interesting because they were actually aliens, and we're not used to think of aliens as people having wings. So, but they come from the sky, like angels. Angels are supposed to be coming from the sky, and these aliens come from the sky. So they are called the Blue Angels. The Kree are blue, and actually blue, like they look blue. They have this blue skin. They're wonderful. If you look at them, they're super beautiful. Even if they're not very aesthetically beautiful, they're beautiful anyway because they're this blue skin and this light blue. It's like my bowl, my medicine ball anyway, yeah. And so they remind me a little bit of water. And anyway, I often wondered if maybe in the past or at some point in history, someone with wings came from the sky. They really came with wings, and they actually had wings. So I have this idea of aliens with wings, and that's something strange about me. And interestingly enough, we find a parallel in the X-Men this time, and the X-Men have this guy that is Warren. I don't remember the surname. That is Angel, actually. And he's a lower level, lower importance X-Men, but he has wings. He happens to have wings. He has 2 wings. He looks like an angel, and they had to put in there. We're talking about superpowers. We're talking about superheroes, and there we have someone with wings. So these wings always come back, and they're always in some way coming back. And among these guys in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and in the gods in heaven, in the Olympus, in the gods in the Olympus, and in the X-Men also, in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wherever, there's always these levels we're talking about. So apparently these superpowers have different levels and different levels of importance. So these guys, these superheroes are labeled according to level. The most prominent example I can come up with is in the X-Men, where they talk about level 5 versus level 1 mutant. So you find that concept in particular in the movie X-Men The Last Stand, if you want to watch it. And that's where you find this concept. There's this mutant that can sense the power, the amount of power of each mutant that she crosses. And she says that the only level 5 mutant she ever met was Phoenix. So yeah, so there's levels. There in some way there's some levels within this winged, not winged beings, and then among them there's always a leader, and that's a very important concept. We have always leaders somewhere, everywhere. We're leaders. And there's always this kind of super leader that knows better than anyone else. Like, for example, we have Dr. X in the X-Men, we have Zeus on the Olympus, and we have Daisy Johnson in the Tremors, Quake. That's in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they are all supposed to guide this angel, these super beings. So the Dr. X is guiding the X-Men, and Daisy Johnson is supposed to be destined to guide the Inhumans. And the reason why she's supposed to guide the Inhumans is that these guys are not very good at deciding for themselves. So there's some of them go rotten and they do bad things, and some other instead do right things and do good things. Anyway, they're not able to go in the right direction by themselves. So they need someone to lead them. And there's always these guys coming up like Dr. X that gives them purpose and gives them a goal or something to work together. And then we have Daisy Johnson on the other in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That also gives this the Inhumans a purpose, a goal, and she makes them affiliate with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so that they know what to do with their powers. And yeah, so there's always this guy that knows better, and this knowing better is always a little bit complained, because there's always a little bit of complaint, especially from the bad guys of the situation, because who tells this guy that he knows better? Who tells Daisy Johnson that she knows better? Who tells Dr. X that he knows better than Magneto? Or whatever, who says that Zeus is a better god than all the other gods? And actually, there is something that these guys do have in common, and it's that they are more in contact, they are in touch with the greater good. They know what the greater good is. That's what they're supposed to be and why they're supposed to be the leader. So there's always this guy that knows what the greater good is and that can tell the others, oh no, you're doing bad because that's the greater good. So there's always this leader that is supposed to be followed for that reason, because they know what the greater good is. And we're going to go to talk about the greater good in another video, because as you may see, it's a very important topic in this context. One last consideration that I want to make is that one thing that the X-Men, the Greek gods, the demigods, and the Inhumans have in common is that they all have characteristics, specific characteristics, and these characteristics give them a place in the world. So the best way to put it is through the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there is this bigger design, this bigger drawing that places each Inhuman in the world according to specific need of the cosmos, and therefore each Inhuman has a place in the world and in the cosmos and in the whole greater good drawing and idea, because they are made that way for a reason. So that's a very important thing to consider. And yeah, so basically what they need to learn is to make use of this great power to find their place in the world, and that's why they need to get in touch with the greater good, and they need to learn from these leaders to understand what the greater good is. So one big success of these leaders is when one of their followers, so to speak, understands what the greater good is and behaves consequentially, especially when they sacrifice themselves and they die for the bigger picture, for this great ideal that is the greater good. For example, in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., at some point, spoiler, at some point Sparkle dies because he understands the great purpose of saving the Earth from Hive, and he throws himself into space and dies to save Daisy and everybody else on Earth for the greater good that Daisy taught him. So, yeah. Daisy herself follows someone that is more in touch than her with a greater good, that is Agent Coulson. So that is some sort of a father figure for her. Anyway, yeah, all these people, all this stuff, I think it's very interesting and very important, and it's not so far from what we're doing on my channel, so I thought to share these thoughts and to make this kind of recreation segment on my channel. I hope you will enjoy it, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.